Well, hello everyone and welcome. Thanks for joining us this evening on Facebook Live to talk about a pretty hot topic, no pun intended, here in Phoenix, houses, the Arizona home buying trends and what is going on in Arizona for the year 2021. So if you are in the market to buy or to sell this year, we have some really interesting insider information from Greg R., our Chief Lending Officer at Copper State Credit Union. If anyone knows what's going on in the crazy housing market, it would be you, Greg, right?
Yes.
So awesome. I'm excited that you're here and that we're able to talk about this tonight. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? How did you get into lending? How did you get into banking?
Thank you, Christina. Born and raised in Indiana. 4 years ago, I decided I was moving out here. So I picked up and moved out here, left the cold and the snow behind. Haven't regretted it 1 minute. I love it out here, and Phoenix and Arizona is my home now. I consider this home, so it's been awesome the time I've been here. Kind of knew in the fourth grade I was going to have a career in banking. Kind of laid that out early. Knew what I was going to do.
Fourth grade.
Fourth grade, I knew I was going to go into banking.
How did you know that?
Lived in a small town, rural town, Indiana, only about 2,700 people. And our next door neighbor was the bank president. And every Wednesday he showed up at noon from home, was off work. And I thought I could do that. And well, 30 years later, I haven't worked a half a day in my life. But that's how I ended up in banking. Started out as a collector, moved into underwriting, managing, doing some indirect lending, working with car dealers, developing business that way, loans that way, mortgage, commercial. Kind of the full picture prepared me for. Like
really done it all.
I've done it all throughout my career. I've had some great mentors along the way that have really positioned me well to succeed at Copper State Credit Union. Love being here. It's a great credit union, well run, and we really focus on the member and getting them what they need.
Absolutely. All right, so let's get into it. My first question for you is a very simple one. Is 2021 the year to buy a house in Arizona, in your professional opinion?
In my opinion, yes, it's the year to buy a house, a home in Arizona, but you better be ready for some competition, because it is a very strong seller's market out here. Properties go up on the market and they're selling within days sometimes, which keeps prices keep going up. But we're looking at a very high demand of people wanting homes, moving in from other areas, and there's just a low supply. People are hanging on to their houses longer. There's not enough supply. So, I mean, the biggest thing you can do right now if you're getting ready to buy a house or you're thinking about getting in the market is be prepared to make that offer and move quickly, because it's going to go fast. It used to be years ago, you made the offer and 60, 90 days later, you were moving in. It's happening as quick as 30, 45 days out here right now.
Wow. Yeah, that's a very big difference.
But if you want to move, if you're going to move slow with it, this is not the market for you.
Good to know. How do you think the year 2021 kind of moving forward in Arizona is going to be different than prior years for people wanting to buy or sell a house? And I know you've kind of touched on this a little bit already, but just tell us more about some of those differences.
I think the difference is we're going to transition out of a refi market that we were in 2020. When the virus hit and everything slowed down, the Feds lowered rates to historically low rates. You could get a 30-year mortgage that was lower than they've ever been before. So you saw a lot of refi business out there. We were not immune to that. All financial institutions across the country probably did 3 times the business they had done in 2019 to 2020. I know we did. We processed 3 times the loan, 3 times the volume, and the majority of that was refi. Everybody was on that craze.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. It was unprecedented, those rates.
Oh, absolutely, it was, and everything was just, everybody was slammed, but it was good. It was fun. We were busy. We were having fun doing it.
Yeah.
2021, I think, is going to transition more into a purchase market. where 2020 with the high volume of refis, I think everybody's saw that the rates were historically low and everybody jumped into the refi market. I think we're going to transition more into a purchase market, and that plays well into Arizona, especially the Phoenix metro area. Saw a report today that we're the fastest growing community in the country right now at about 12% annually growth. People are abandoning the cold weather, the snow. I'm one of those, guilty of that. Then you got the neighboring states that are, everything's high priced, the taxes are high, everything's high. We're still very affordable market over here. So we're seeing a lot of people move here.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of sounds like Phoenix is, and Arizona, Phoenix specifically, is a desirable destination for folks wanting to buy a house right now. That seems to be the case.
I think it is. I think we're just a destination place to do the weather, the proximity to everything. I mean, we're close to the ocean, 4 or 5 hours. You can be at the ocean. Just great outdoor activities for all the national parks by.
It's a very boring drive, though, I will say.
It is a boring drive. It's a boring drive.
One straight desert road, but I mean, it is only 4 or 5 hours, so not.
It's only 4 or 5 hours, and case in point, I was playing golf in April with a guy that him and his wife worked in New York City. The in-laws were out here when they shut down New York City. They came out here because they could work from anywhere, and they had no plans of going back as early as April. So I think with the work at home movement. And more of that, people are going to go to the more desirable climates. We have a great community out here with the universities and just the culture we have. I think we're going to see that going forward.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot of reasons to be buying a house in Arizona right now.
Yes.
So what would you say all of this is leading to? So like, what general conclusion can you draw about the 2021 housing market in Arizona?
We're going to see some housing appreciation. The prices are going to go up, but just from the competition, the high demand, low supply they're going to creep up. If you get into the market, if you're thinking about getting in the market in 6-9 months now, that same house you're looking at that might be $250, 6-9 months from now, it's probably going to be a $300,000 house.
Wow. So tell me, how is Arizona different than like the rest of the U.S.? You mentioned like appreciation. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
With the flexibility in moving, and people can work anywhere, and it's just, we're going to be a destination for a long time. Yeah.
So you mentioned that it's important for buyers to be ready to act fast. How do you recommend they prepare in order to do this, especially for first-time home buyers? Because it's a complicated process, right? And it feels like, oh, there's so many steps. So how do you act fast in a way to make sure you get the house that you want?
Know what you want and have your homework done before you get there. Because if when the house goes on the market, talk with a Copper State Credit Union mortgage loan officer. We have very talented loan officers. They will get you pre-qualified for your mortgage, and you'll be ready to roll at the time when you make the offer.
We're seeing. You say a pre-qualification, is that a must-have or like nice to have?
In this market, it's a must-have. If you're submitting an offer right now, if a home goes on the market, they're getting multiple offers within days. And if you don't have that pre-approval and you got to start that process, you're probably not going to get your offer accepted. They're going to go with the cash offer first because that's clean, they're done.
Yeah.
And they're looking for a pre-approval. You need to have that pre-approval lined up, have your taxes, we'll need 2 years tax returns, some pay stubs, bank statements. If you need a contingency to sell your current home to be able to move into the new home, you're probably not going to get your offer accepted. So you need to try to eliminate as many contingencies as you can to make your offer as attractive as you can in this market.
Wow. Well, and I know you've mentioned like having for the down payment to make sure that you've got those funds in there and they've been in there for a while. Gift letters you've mentioned.
Yeah, you're going to look at 60 days. We're going to look at 60 days bank statements and make sure that the money was there. And if it's not, we conform with all the lending standards for mortgages, government backed, everything. And they either need the 60 days, and if the money has just shown in there, you're going to need some type of gift letter or an explanation letter for those funds, how they got there. You need to have that all lined up. If you're taking it from a 401k, that's fine, but you kind of need to have that in process when you're making that offer, because those funds will need to be available pretty quick.
Yeah, and that's not, it sounds like something you probably don't want to be dealing with at the last minute, because you may find that that house slips through your fingers if that's the case.
Exactly. That's exactly correct.
So can you tell us a little bit about down payment assistance programs? So do we help members with those? Tell us a little bit about that.
We have down payment assistance available. Normally that's for a first-time buyer, but under the guidelines for mortgage lending, a first-time buyer is someone that's not owned a home in the last 3 years. So if you had a house 4 years ago, you sold it and you've just been renting, waiting to find something, you can qualify for these funds.
That is interesting. I'm really glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, so they call it the first-time buyer program, but it is expanded to where it can include, you could have previously owned a home, you just can't in the last 3 years.
Huh.
Normally it's a matching type grant, $4 for every $1 that the member has to put down. So you put down $1, they're going to give you $4. So in essence, you're putting $5 down on that house.
Wow.
And this is grant money that the longer you stay in the house, up to 5 years, then it's fully earned grant. You don't have to pay it back. If you sell that house within the first 5 years, you're going to pay a portion of that grant back. Okay. So there is that. Some of these grant programs, the program is awesome for single income families, because they are based on income. It's normally the moderate to lower income group that is available to these funds. And some of the programs you have to go through some classes, a savings class, a budget class, make sure you're ready to get into that home, because the expenses for that house do not stop when you buy the house and you start making the payment. There's maintenance and everything else. They want to make sure you've budgeted and you're expecting those, so you don't have any surprises down the road.
Yeah, and I imagine that those programs are not like, an hour long. I would imagine that they take a little while to complete.
They'll take a while. They kind of vary in what they are, but it's anywhere from 90 days to 6 months that you have to go through these steps to qualify for the grant. And then once you get certified for that, you have up to a year to go out and purchase the home.
Very cool.
So there is some lead time into that, lead time getting pre-approved. So just anticipate it's going to take some time, and you're not going to wake up one morning to say, I'm going to go buy a house. You definitely need to plan in this market.
Yeah, that makes sense. So we've talked a lot about buyers. What about those people who are wanting to sell their home in 2021? Any advice for them?
You need to have your ducks in a row as well, because if you put your house on the market, it's going to sell, and it's going to sell very quickly. Case in point, when I moved out here, just bought a little condo till I figured out where I was going to be. Eventually bought a house. I went to the realtor's office, signed the papers to list the condo, was headed off to San Diego for a jazz festival, and got a call on my way over there that the house had sold cash offer, full price. So it never even hit the listing. Wow. People never even saw it. A couple of realtors within that office had clients that were looking for it. They immediately went and looked at it, and I sold the thing in probably less than 3 hours. So definitely, if you're selling, you decide to sell, be ready to move pretty quickly. Know where you're going to hit. Where are you going, or where are you moving to? Have your house picked out.
Have somewhere to go, right?
Have somewhere to go.
Did you just
and basically follow the same steps as the purchaser, that you've gotten pre-qualified, that you've got everything lined up so you can move quickly.
Yeah, I was going to say, in your case, you should have just stayed at the jazz festival, just not come home.
Yeah. No, I came home.
All right. So next question for you. Just in general, what is your opinion on how the pandemic has changed the way that we buy houses? And do you think it'll go back to normal?
Normal? No, I think we'll go back to a new normal. Realtors are still going to be very active in the market. You're still going to need to work with a realtor to get it done, just from a selling side and a buying side, because they can really hold your hand and get you through this process. And the market is moving as quickly as it is. You need that professional to help guide you through. Copper State Credit Union, we work with several realtors on the purchase side. We can get you pre-approved, and maybe refer you to somebody. We can do something like that for you. But I think you're going to see the listing different. You're going to see more virtual stuff, where you're going to the realtor's office and you're seeing the house pretty much online, going through each room. They've got cameras that rotate through the house, and you can kind of look at whatever you want.
Yeah, what you can see virtually now is amazing.
It's amazing. You're going to see a lot of that. And instead of looking at 12 houses in a day to figure out what you want through that process, you're probably going to narrow it down to one or two. Go see those. And I wouldn't be surprised if at some point in this market, you see it virtually. You just make the offer and put an inspection clause in there that, we've got 7 days from acceptance to yay or nay it in person. So yeah. I think you're going to see a trend there. You're going to see a lot more virtual activity on the housing market, and people just aren't going to be going through as many houses to try to find a house anymore.
Right. That makes sense. So what would you say, thinking about 2021, we're through the first quarter, but what are you excited about when it comes to the 2021 housing market and just kind of moving forward? What's exciting to you? Chief Lending Officer, this is valuable stuff here.
It's exciting that we're a growing community. We have so many new people coming to the community, and we're here to serve the community. We do a very good job at that. We'll welcome you to Copper State. We can walk you through the process, get you where you need to be. I just think with everything that's going on around here in Phoenix, with the building and the housing and people moving in, it's going to be an exciting market and great to help people fulfill their dream of owning a home. These low rates that we're in right now, it's making houses more affordable to folks that might have historically been renters. With the low rates, now they can afford to buy a home. So seeing them and helping them get into their first home is awesome. It's going to be great.
It's really awesome to think about.
It is.
So on the flip side of that, is there anything that concerns you? Just it's so crazy. There's a lot going on. What concerns you looking forward?
On the same token, the concerns there are the home values going up as quickly as they have. The low rates are helping folks afford homes that historically have been renters. That appreciation is going to maybe put them out of the market. So that's kind of a concern that, we got to watch the home prices going up so we don't have a crash going forward. I don't see that happening because there were a lot of other things going on back in 08, 09 that are not happening now. Now it's true values. The appreciation numbers, I think, are very true. Most of the country is seeing appreciation home values in that 3.5%. Arizona's clicking along right at 10% every year right now. So that gets a little concerning from a risk management side. But it's true dollars. It's true money now going forward. Probably one of my biggest concerns that I'm seeing right now is with the demand for housing so high, the supply low, offers are being submitted where they're waiving the inspections on these homes. I never recommend that.
The inspection is checking out the condition of the home, right? And checking out by an expert to make sure that there's nothing seriously wrong. And that's what that is.
Exactly. That's what it is. You hire a professional, they go out, usually costs you $400 to $600. They'll check the plumbing, the hot water heater, if it's got a pool, they run the filter, they look at the condition of the roof, any of the appliances. They really do a thorough job of going through, and they give you a report of what's going to happen. How much expected life is left, what should be fixed, what shouldn't be fixed. Interesting thing, Mountain West Credit Union Association, which we're part of that, we had our quarterly lenders conference yesterday on Zoom, and they had done a poll of home buyers from the credit unions within the group, which includes Arizona, Colorado, and Utah. Okay. I was shocked by the number. 55% of those buying homes had some remorse, some level of remorse about buying that home. That's a shocking number because that's supposed to be, it's your biggest purchase. It's supposed to be a great, happy time. And 55%, and that is up from like 18% the year before. And I think it all comes back to the buyers having that pressure of waiving those inspections so they can get the house that they want. It's their dream house, and they get in there and they find out the hot water heater wasn't working, the refrigerator wasn't working, or the roof had a major leak that they had just covered up, and all those repairs fall back on the buyer. And if you're not prepared for that,
so definitely don't waive that inspection as well.
That would be the last thing I would waive. You want to clean up everything, any other contingencies, like I mentioned earlier. You don't want to have to sell your house to get into the new house. You want to get that contingency removed where you have the money to move right away if you can. Because if you list your house, it's going to sell quickly, but it might not close for 30 to 45 days. And the home you're buying, they might want to close in 25 days.
Yeah.
We've seen some pretty quick closings. So definitely, I'd never recommend waiving that inspection. You know what you're getting into. Some people, there's an appraisal gap. We're seeing a lot of stuff of that right now. Historically, I would see this 1 or 2 times a year. Now we're seeing it 2-3 times a month where the appraisal comes in lower than what they're asking, and people are just putting the money down.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you've got to be prepared. If you're going into this market, you're likely going to have to pay over asking price. They're going to put some pressure on you to waive the inspections, get rid of all your contingencies, and just buy this house, close it, and get in it. And that's not a good idea with the surprises that come with home ownership.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So, it's an interesting piece of advice that you've given us today, because on one hand, you need to be prepared and you need to be ready to go as much as possible, but not compromise on the important stuff.
Yes, do not do that. I mean, owning a home is a big purchase. It's the biggest financial commitment you're going to make probably in your life.
Yeah.
And you need to be well versed and well prepared for that.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Greg, I'm going to let you go soon. I promise. It's not quite that half day that you wanted today, but I do have one more question for you. Do you have any advice to give people? So from Chief Lending Officer here at Copper State Credit Union, what is your best or last piece of advice before we sign off for today?
Work with your mortgage lending officer. Have your ducks in a row and get that pre-approval. That pre-approval is key. If you're not paying cash for that house, which I really hope that you'll consider us for your financing, that you really need to have that in place and ready to roll with that and close on the house fairly quickly, because offers that don't have that, they're not getting consideration. The homeowners or the sellers, they're seeing 5-6 offers on day one. If they've got 3 that have no contingencies or anything like that, those are the 3 they're going to consider. And if you have a contingency or you're not pre-approved, you're probably not going to be considered for that house.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Let's double check and see if we have any questions today. Just hop on here. Looks like no, we don't have any questions. So we will go ahead and wrap up. Thank you, Greg. I really appreciate you being with us this evening, and have a great night.
Thank you. Well, glad to be here. As I said, you out there watching it, members are new to the community, Copper State, we're full service lender. We can help you through the process. Be happy to do it.
Absolutely. Bye.
Goodbye.